Hello, and welcome to Steve's Mixtapes. My guest mixer this week is someone who I was put in touch with via Paul Howarth of the Twilight Turntable podcast, who appeared on this show a few weeks ago. My guest this week is a drummer, although he tells me that, and I quote, wouldn't dare label myself a drummer due to a severe lack of technique, craft and remuneration. He currently plays in a pub rock covers band called Southside Five, who play, he tells me, stuff like Dr. Feelgood, Elvis Costello, Squeeze, Dave Edmunds, Nick Lowe, amongst others. So welcome to Steve's Mixtapes, Joe Rolls.
Thanks, Steve. Nice to be here.
Did you ever feel you were destined to become a drummer with your surname?
No, not quite, although people have remarked on it a number of times. And
I was going to say, I bet I'm not the first to say that.
Yeah, no, and I quite like it, actually. Nominative determination or something they call it, isn't it?
Well, I don't know where that leaves me with a name like Pringle. So obviously we're meeting for the first time this evening. You got in touch via Paul, which was very kind of him, because I'm always looking out for interesting guests. So I don't know that much about you. I do know that you live in Tooting,
yes,
which is not a place I know much about. The only thing that Tooting brings to mind for me is Citizen Smith.
Tooting Popular Front and all that. I know it's a very vibrant place, and I've been sort of looking at some of its musical history, actually, and I think, unfortunately, its history is slightly more colourful than its current its present state. They've got a great the Granada Tooting Cinema, which is in Tooting, and it's a fantastic sort of 1930s Art Deco building, which opened, I think, 1931, and you had the likes of Frank Sinatra, Beatles, the Stones, even like Jerry Lee Lewis on his ill-fated UK tour played there, Hendrix, Little Richard. So having that just down the end of your road would be quite an exciting venue to go to. And there's also the Mixed Blessings Bakery, which is like a Jamaican bakery. That used to be quite a famous reggae recording studio, Tooting Music Centre, with the likes of Aswad and Maxi Priest gracing the studio. So but live music at the moment in Tooting is a bit dried up a little bit, but I think its past is much more colourful.
Is it somewhere that's been, my knowledge of areas of London is pretty limited. Is it somewhere that's been gentrified at any point?
I kind of think you might be right. So you probably started with the gentrification, would have been perhaps many years in Clapham, then it stretched out to Balham. Then I couldn't afford to live in Balham anymore, so I then moved to Tooting many years ago. And so it is sort of gradually working its way through. I mean, there is, for the better, I think. Some of the pubs are now really good. The market, there's an indoor market which has gone the way of probably many of other, like Brixton Market, an indoor area with lots of places to go out and eat. And so it's actually become quite an interesting nightlife place to go and visit, yeah. So the gentrification of that is certainly rings true.
And tell me about the Southside Five. How long have you been going? And do you just play local gigs?
Yeah, we have been, actually. We're probably too old to start lugging kit up into the centre of London or elsewhere. But we started a couple of years ago. We went to see a friend of ours in a band, the Bread and Roses in Clapham, and by chance, these were friends of a friend, and we all kind of were standing around having a beer watching a band, and he was like, well, I play guitar and you play guitar and you play bass and you play drums, should we form a band? We went, yeah, Ryan. It really was like five blokes walk into a pub and say, should we form a band? And so we did. And I am I'm the baby of the group or I was at the time at 56. So a lot of the musical influences probably a little bit before my time, but I'm just kind of happy to go with it. And so we started rehearsing and then played. Again, we also played the Bread and Roses in Clapham. There's a place called the Rebel Inn in Streatham where they do like open mic nights, so we played there. But we recently played, or I say recently, last year at the Bedford in Balham, and we've got a gig next week at the Balham Bowls Club. There's a big sort of ballroom area up top, which we've hired out and sold tickets for. So yeah, we kind of practice once a week, but as much as it's quite nice to play, it's quite nice just to, I guess, have a hobby to get back into playing music. We don't really have the time to perhaps write and create our own stuff. You normally kind of have to have quite a bit of time to kind of get all that stuff together. So we're quite happy to play covers, but we sort of try and choose covers that are perhaps a little bit off the beaten track. So I have a very strict rule of no Beatles and no Rolling Stones. It's some kind of stuff that's been overplayed, and God, no Mustang Sally anywhere near our band. So yeah, but we kind of play stuff that's a bit familiar, but perhaps not your the first song you would reach for when playing a cover.
Okay, Joe. So let's get on to your mix. Did you have any particular process? I often ask people, are you an agonizer or are you a decisive playlist compiler?
Well, this playlist, funnily enough, it's as I've gone through these, these wouldn't have been my first choice of songs. A lot of them. I think the reason why I went for some of these is that Paul asked me to put a list together, and we often share songs between each other loads of times, and so I didn't want to put the same sort of things together that he would have listened to before. So I thought of made it a little bit different, and not knowing I was going to be coming on, really. I think the process of this, and I probably think a lot of your people that listen to the show or have been on this show will probably agree with this, that the process of putting these songs together was really kind of took me back to the time when I was younger. Perhaps if I was going to a new college, new university, or a new job, you wanted to sort of set your stall out of who you are, and you did that through your music, and sometimes you were just as vocal about the things you didn't like as the things that you did like. You're trying to find your tribe, aren't you, I guess, especially when you were younger. And the process of choosing these songs, or particularly the first song, really took me back to that. I think nowadays when you're older and you're slightly more secure of who you are and you've got a very good network of people around you, you perhaps don't do that quite so much. But this certainly took me back to a time when you would do that. We're looking for like-minded people, and you would say, I like this and I don't like this. So this was so in that respect, the first song, because it sits very nicely in the sweet spot of the type of music I like, that, as you say, a fast, get your pace, get your heart rate going. That was perhaps the hardest and the easiest one to sort of choose, because I wanted to kind of really showing this is who I am, and so this song in that category enabled me to do that. The first song I've chosen really was about me being in the right time at the right place. I was I was traveling in North America. I went over to travel, bought a mobile home, me and a friend, and we drove up the West Coast highway, and we stopped off in this record store in Dallas, and I was listening at the old listening post, and the song came on from this album that I've never heard before, and it was absolute belter.
She came out west to find the sun. She lost her name but found a new one. Maybe goes to school all day, but at night in the neighborhood they call her amphetamine. She's perfect in that fucked up way now. All the magazines seem to want to glorify these days. She looks like a teenage anthem, and she looks like she used to be like me with a girl inside. And she looks so bored sometimes. And she has that super pale skin and those soft green eyes. She looks like she could have been happy in a better life. saddest girl that I have ever known. Yeah, she wakes me up in the middle of the night just to tell me everything will be alright. Amy smiles at me, tells me everything will be alright. Yeah, Amy smiles at me.
From the 1997 album So Much for the Afterglow, that was Everclear with Amphetamine. And that track is what we hit the ground running with my guest mixer this week, Joe Rolls. Now, Joe, as if you've listened to a few shows, which I believe you have, you will know that I always ask people at this point if they've always been somebody who has enjoyed the art of the mixtape, making compilations, etc.
Well, I'd certainly have made a few in my time. I often find them quite handy to give out when you have to sort of give out a secret Santa at Christmas and you've only got a five and you kind of go, what can I get with a five? And you go, I know what I'll do a mixtape. Because it makes it feel like you've actually really put some thought into it. So I have done a few in my time. I also remember when, not necessarily sort of selecting songs specifically, but when I was at Kingston Polytechnic on a Sunday, Gary Crowley, I think, used to do a show on GLR, I think it was. It was like a Sunday, and it was like it was an indie show. So you would hear quite a few of the alternative songs of the time, whether that be sort of UK or coming across from America. And I'd often have the hit the play record button at the time to create that. I still got a few cassettes kicking around with some old stuff on it, like bands like Senseless Things and Mega City 4 and 530 Dillons, all that kind of from that indie era of early 90s, quite a rich vein of stuff. So that was a really good way of listening to music at a time when probably there weren't that many channels out there that cater for that sort of stuff.
Yeah, it's funny you should mention, just a couple of interviews ago, we were discussing Senseless Things and Mega City 4 with, I think, Ian Key from Louder Than Word Radio. I can't remember which of his choices, but they reminded me of that era. So it's funny they should crop up a couple of times in the same week. Now, there's something old choice you got for a very, very well-known song. I have to say, they're a band whose heyday slightly passed me by. I was just too young for this. I was 4 years old when this song came out. So obviously I'm aware of them. I know the famous songs. But, some of their songs, to be honest, I first knew from them being in adverts. If you remember, Blockbuster, for example, was used on a sort of Mini Hoover advert, if I remember correctly. And young of that, when you've gone from Ballroom Blitz, obviously a very well-known song indeed. Why particularly this one, Joe?
I remember listening to this even when I'm probably the similar age to you. So this, what you say, came out in about, 73?
73.
You say? Yeah, I would have been 4 too. And my initial reaction was to sort of reach for a punk anthem. I'm sure some of them must have crept in. If I was being really strict, I think it was like something over 50 years old. But even something like Ramones' Blitzkrieg Bop was February 76, so that might have crept in. But the Damned was October 76, so they were a little bit outside. And to avoid being one note, I sort of went for this one because I remember that great sort of freight train drum pattern they have throughout this, and it always really captured me. I thought, what a great sound it was. And we considered doing a cover of this in our band. But then we just thought it's not just about being able to play the notes. Could we do it justice? Do we have the swagger and the showmanship in order to carry it off? And the answer was quite obviously no. This it obviously comes from the band Sweet, and I think that they themselves would look at some of their other stuff like Lovers Like Oxygen and Papa Joe. It's they kind of sound a bit more than just your normal glam rock fare. And I think this one has stood the test of time a little bit better.
So hard living with the things you do to me. Oh no, my things are getting so strange. I like to tell you everything I see. one. Oh, yeah, it was like lightning. Everybody was frightening, and the music was soothing, and they all started grooving. And the man at the back said, everyone attack, and it turned into a ballroom blitz. And the girl in the corner said, fire on the one, it'll turn into a ballroom blitz. Ballroom blitz. Ballroom blitz. Ballroom blitz. Ballroom blitz. Reaching out for something, touching nothing's all I ever do. I softly call you over when you feel there's nothing left in you. Now the man at the back is ready to crack as he raises his hands to the sky. And the girl in the corner is everyone's fun, and she could kill you with a wink of her eye. Oh, yeah, it was electric, so frantically hectic. And the band started leaving, 'cause they all stopped breathing. And the man at the back said, everyone attack, and it turned into a ballroom blitz. And the girl in the corner said, fire on the one, it'll turn into a ballroom blitz. Ballroom blitz. Oh, yeah, it was like lightning. Everybody was frightening, and the music was soothing, and they all started grooving. And the man at the back said, everyone attack, and it turned into a ballroom blitz. And the girl in the corner said, fire on the one, it'll turn into a ballroom blitz. Ballroom blitz. Ballroom blitz. Ballroom blitz. Ballroom blitz. It's the ballroom blitz. It's the ballroom blitz. It's the ballroom blitz. Yeah, it's the ballroom blitz.
On to your something new choice, Joe. Now, I often ask people about, by what means they try in this era of several million songs being released every day, what they use to try and keep up with what's contemporary. I know that you discover this via Spotify. Is that a method that you use? You described discovering this on a Spotify rabbit hole.
Yeah, so I mean, I'm desperate to kind of to find my new favorite band or song or album. I often, when listening to music, when I'm just got my headphones in, I kind of do sort of rely back or default to the sort of tried and tested stuff. So I'm constantly eager to find it, and I can quite happily spend a couple of hours on my own of an evening, sitting in the kitchen having a drink, and as you say, or watching YouTube or Spotify, where it will recommend you something on from your previous choice. And this is something that was served up to me after listening to something else on Spotify. So I'd heard of them on Six Music a few times, I think. So their name wasn't that new to me. But this particular song was. I think this song has only just come out it's on their LP that came out in January this year. So it's pretty new. This particular one really caught my attention. They're a brother and sister group, and they do have a drummer when they play live. But they supported the Sex Pistols last year in March, and I like three-piece bands. I think they're kind of they're hard-working. There's no hiding place for any member on a three-piece band. It's not like you're on if you're on the second ocarina at the back that you can kind of get away with not doing much. But they look great. They're like 17 and 18 years old. It's incredible.
Wow. And apparently, I read they've already played over 600 gigs.
Well, I guess that's why they're that good, yeah, when you play that many. Yeah. I mean, he's a he's a handsome, sharp dressed lad. You know, she looks great on stage. She's beautiful, and they both they rock out. They both play Rickenbacker guitars, so they look really good. They got a touch of the jam about them. You know, so they've got, you know, youth, looks, talent, really. So what's not to like?
Are you ready for me to take you somewhere? Do I frustrate you like chewing gum stuck in your hair? 'Cause we're on a journey that I can't wait to end. If you need a shoulder, I'm not the one to lend. Why am I the victim of your lies? How about you go get alive? You've done a great job at persuading the jury. I'm on probation. Why won't someone set me free? I hope you feel this makes you interested. Another story for you to shout or sing to any fucker that is listening. How about you go get alive? I said go get alive. Go get alive. Oh, I want you, go get alive. I said, how about you, go get alive. I said, how about you, go get alive. I said, God, please save me. Go get alive.
On to your something borrowed now, Joe. And I was very pleased to see this because this is something else I definitely used to own. I owned a 7-inch vinyl single of this. It came in a sort of a fold-out poster sort of sleeve, if I remember rightly. I used to play this a lot, and this has appeared on many a compilation tape that I've made over the years. It's a cracking cover. There were a lot of this type of cover around at the time, most of which, I think you mentioned in your email, were quite sort of cartoonish and a bit obvious. But I always feel with this one that it feels like they've got quite a lot of respect for the song, even if they do sort of an indie punk thrash version of it. So this is China Drum, and it's their version of Wuthering Heights. You said in your email, rule number 1 of a great cover is choosing a great song to cover.
Yeah, you're kind of halfway there, really, aren't you? I suppose by doing that, and I suppose the rule number 2 is try and own it. Try and do it in the way that, you know, gives you a reason to do it, rather than just trying to do another trotting out the same old sort of sounds to it. And I think that they could have fallen into a trap. You know, like the Toy Dolls did with Nelly the Elephant.
I remember many a disco of my youth ending with that.
Right, yeah, and I think at the time, and it probably took them quite a while afterwards. They were quite a sort of well respected, probably a bit daft, but punk band. And then when this song came out, whilst that gave them a pretty good payday, it might have put the nail in their coffin, really. And I don't know if you've ever heard of a band called Me First and the Gimme Gimmes.
No, it doesn't ring a bell.
They're another sort of another American band, and all they do is just sort of punked up versions of classic songs. You know, they'll do like Elton John and Neil Diamond, Gloria Gaynor, you know, Dolly Parton, John Denver, all that sort of.
We did have somebody
stuff
on the show choose. Apologies, I think it might be Paul Garrett chose the Dickies, who quite a lot of their career was that sort of thing, wasn't it?
Right, they did the Banana Splits
they did,
theme
yes.
tune, didn't they? Yeah,
they did lots of others in the same style.
And they sometimes, so this sort of band, they come on and they'll sometimes wear like those sort of sky blue Las Vegas stuff, and they'll play. It always seemed to be as if, so Me First, the Gimme Gimmes would be like a band you might see on an American spring break type thing, you know. Whereas going back to this particular cover, China Drum, it I'm sure if they put it out as an A-side and gave it to Radio 1 to play and it caught on, it might have been the death of them. But this was on a B-side, I think, of their first single, "Can't Stop These Things," which comes off their album Goose Fair, I think it was called, and it just comes across as a really well crafted and well thought out version of this song, sounding completely different, but as I say, respectfully and doing it justice as well.
On the wily, windy moors, we'd roll and fall in green. You had a temper like my jealousy, too hot, too greedy. How could you leave me when I needed to possess you? I hated you, I loved you too. Bad dreams in the night told me I was going to lose the fight. Leave behind my wuthering high secret. It's me, Kathy, come on, I'm so cold. Let me into your window. It's me, Kathy, come on, I'm so cold. Let me into your window. Ooh, it gets dark, it gets lonely on the other side from you. I find a lot, falls through without you. I'm coming back, love, to Heathcliff, my one dream, my only master. Too long I roam in the night. I'm coming back to his side to put it right. I'm coming home to wuthering high Heathcliff. This week, Kathy, come on, I'm so cold. Let me into your window. Heathcliff, it's me, Kathy, come on, I'm so cold. Let me into your window. Ooh, let me have it, let me grab this all away. Shoes, let me have it, let me grab this all away. You know it's me, Kathy. It's me, Kathy, come on, I'm so cold. Let me into your window. It's me, Kathy, come on, I'm so cold. Let me into your window. It's me, Kathy, come on, I'm so cold. Let me into your window. It's me, Kathy, come on, I'm so cold. Let me into your
That was the something borrowed choice of my guest this week, Joe Rolls. That was China Drum with their cracking cover, I think, of Wuthering Heights. On to Something Blue. Now, this is a band I remember being around in sort of my student days, maybe just after. And they're one of those bands that were sort of being talked about as possibly the next big thing. I think they had a few labels that might have sunk a bit of money into them, and they never quite broke through, did they? So this is Kingmaker. Were you a big Kingmaker fan at the time?
Not particularly, and I did get their second album, Sleepwalking, I think it's called, but I think the first and third albums sort of weren't as good. And I think I saw them support the Wonder Stuff in December of '92. So that probably been about the time that you're talking about, Steve, where they were kind of potentially going places. I wouldn't necessarily. I love the album that this song is from. The reason why I've chosen this is I'm not very good at interpreting lyrics. You know, when people speak sort of metaphorically about stuff, or poetry, creative as it is, I just don't get it. I don't understand it. Whereas the reason why I like this song is that this really does. It's very stark lyrics, and it kind of gives it to you in black and white. There's no misinterpretation. Well, I hope there's no misinterpretation of this. And this is a really desperately sad track about a car accident. So there's very sort of stark lyrics wrapped against sort of very beautiful strings in this. And it feels very personal. I don't know if this is something that person has, or the singer, whoever wrote the song has experienced things, because the song starts off as if they're sort of having a private joke to them, and they're talking about it at the breakfast table. So that sounds very personal. And then it goes on to sort of explain sort of the tragic circumstances, with lyrics like dropping stones off a motorway bridge was something people would forgive. And I didn't notice the rain-soaked streets. Did you hear the brakes screech? So very kind of quite powerful. I remember a friend of mine once. She'd lost her father, not to a road accident, and she always said that songs that are, about people splitting up and relationships, which lots of sad songs are written about. They're not that bad because at least they're still around. But death, particularly people that have died before their time, is so final. It's incredibly sad. And so this is why I chose this, because it seems like it tells a really, really personal story about something that is incredibly, incredibly sad.
From the 1993 album Sleepwalking, that was Kingmaker with Sad to See You Go. Right, I wanted to take it down track, Joe, and I was quite surprised when this came on because I was expecting something a bit shoutier and punkier. And that's because, for no reason I can possibly understand, I always mix up Rilo Kiley with Slater Kinney. I had no idea why I conflate the two of those. All they've got in common is they both have a sort of 2-word, 4-syllable name. We haven't had a Rilo Kiley song before, although we did have Jenny Lewis from one of her solo songs, Andy Gillespie, chose a couple of months ago. So they're not a band I've heard bits and pieces of. They're not a band I know a lot of. But I know you've got a bit of a family connection to this song.
Well, yeah. So I've my eldest daughter, so Daisy, she's now 16. She's always had quite a mature taste in music for quite a young age. She's sort of into Bowie, Fleetwood Mac. She loves the Smiths, which is good. Cure. Haven't quite got her on board with The Wedding Present yet. This was a song and an album that I recommended to her, and I really get excited I really love it when she likes it too. You know, there's a real sort of bonding moment there with when she said, "Oh yeah, I really like that," and so we've kind of been discussing what the song's about. It's a little bit. This goes back to me not understanding songs, but we've both had discussions about this particular song and actually what it is about. She thought so. You know, she thinks it's about a song that's written from the perspective of 3 different people. I thought it was written from the perspective of, I think, a female that had a female lover. But I think we're both wrong. We've had sort of numerous discussions on this and sort of reflecting on what it's all about. So this is a really nice, it's a beautiful song with lots of lovely string arrangements and trumpets, a slide guitar in it. You know, it's a lovely, nice, slow arrangement to it. And I've since looked online as to what the song is about, and the actual song itself is about falling out of love. You know, there's a great lyric, "The slow fade of love. It's my gradual descent into a life I never meant." It's such the idea of slow fade of love, I think, is really a really nice turn of phrase. But I've since found out that I think somebody cleverer than I has suggested that this is a song that's they quote Jean-Luc Godard, the director. He said the story must have a beginning, a middle, and end, but not necessarily in that order. And this song is one of those songs where it starts at the end, the second part of the song is the beginning, and the third part of the song is the middle. And now I would never have figured that out. But it's created lots of good discussion points with me and my daughter, and I'm really pleased that it's a song that I've given to her or suggested to her that she's really loved.
His note said if living is the problem, well, that's just baffling. And at the wake I waited around to see my ex-first love, and I barely recognized her, but I knew exactly what she was thinking of. We sat quietly in the corner, whispering close about loss. And I remembered why I loved her, and I asked her why I drove her off. She said the slow fade of love, its soft edge might cut you. And our poor friend Jim, well, he just lived within the slow fade of love. A woman calls my house once a week, she's always selling some charity, a phone plan, a subscription to a magazine. And And as I turned her down, I always do, there's something trembling in her voice. I said, hey, what troubles you? She said, I'm surprised you noticed. Well, my husband, he's leaving, and I can't convince him to stay. And he'll take our daughter with him. She wants to go with him anyway. I'm sorry, I'm hard to live with. Living is the problem for me. I'm selling people things they don't want when I don't know what you need. He said the slow fade of love, and it's missed my choke you. It's my gradual descent into a life I never meant. It's the slow fade of love. Driving south from Melrose, I happened upon my old lover's old house. I found myself staring at the closed oak door like the day she threw me out. Diana, 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 I would die for you. I'm in love with you completely. I'm afraid that's all I can do. She said, you can sleep upon my doorstep. You can promise me indifference, Jim. But my mind is made up, and I'll never let you in again. For the slow fade of love, it might hit you from below. It's your gradual descent into a life you never meant. It's the slow fade of love. 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 Baby, it's the slow fade of love. 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 Slow fade.
From the 2004 album More Adventurous, that was Royal O'Carly with A Man, Me, Then Jim. Okay, so standard question, Joe, as you probably realise when we get the Around the World choice is, do you listen to a great deal of stuff that isn't from Britain or America?
Do you know what? I don't, to be honest. And I think that's probably more to do with the narrow taste of music that I have, and to my detriment. There isn't. I don't like a huge amount of musical genres, really, unfortunately. So, and that might, and also, it's probably the stuff I get served up with the channels that I sort of listen to, whether it's radio or social media or the like. So I can't really think. I mean, even stuff from Australia doesn't really come across very, very often. So I don't really sort of venture into the realms of Europe or Africa and elsewhere.
So, we're into show 63 here, Joe, and we've been to many, many places you would imagine. We've been to Brazil, we've been to Cambodia, we've been to Outer Mongolia twice, believe it or not. But we haven't actually been to Belgium before. And the artist you've chosen is from Antwerp, or they are from Antwerp. The only thing I know about Deus is there's a glitch techno band from Yorkshire called Worried About Satan that I'm very fond of. I've seen them live a few times. I still follow their career. Gavin from Worried About Satan was supposed to come on the show, did me a playlist and everything, but we've still never got around to doing it. So Gavin, if you're listening, unlikely I know, then please get in touch. We'll sort that show out. The reason that the link with them is that Worried About Satan are named after a Deus B-side.
Oh, okay.
But I never really listened to them. So I wasn't quite sure what to expect. And when I listened to it, I thought, this isn't what I expected. But then I thought, I'm not sure what I did expect them to. I think I expect them to be a bit more like quirky and angular. And I guess it's possibly the proximity of their name to Devo made me think that. That's possibly
you and names, Steve.
Yeah, it could be. Yeah, it's not something I do regularly. It's just so it's a bit odd. I've done it twice in your list. So this is a result of drunken nights in Brixton, I gather.
So a friend of mine, James, who I met actually through working at the same place, and we went on then to found another band we were in our youth called the Brinks, and we would often go out on a Friday, going to Soho where we used to work, and then we'd end up in his flat in Brixton, and we'd always used to go via. There used to be a taxi rank in North Clapham that used to sell little £10 bags of weed. And we go back to his place, and we used to kind of carry on a bit of a party. And we used to play the alphabet game, where we each take it in turns to choose from his extensive selection of CDs a song that began with A and a song that began with B, etc., etc. And so he would often bring to my attention stuff I hadn't heard. And this is one such band. As you mentioned, I think they're probably from different parts of Europe, but they're definitely based in Antwerp. And I think I saw them support Placebo back in 1997 at the old London Astoria. Again, this is a band that hasn't really crossed over, despite the fact that, you know, they've got a very kind of UK or, sound to them. And they're quite experimental. They use a lot of instruments. They fuse a bit of rock, pop, and jazz. And so I can't quite figure out why they didn't do better either. It might have been again a matter of timing. I think the first couple of albums that came out to great acclaim, but then when the third one came out, it might have come across perhaps during Britpop, so it probably didn't get the attention that perhaps it would. I think they used to be like double page spreads in NME and things like that. And then by the time the album that this came from, the album's called Ideal Crash, they didn't really get the media attention because everything was focused on the Britpop stuff. But they're incredibly creative. I know that sounds obvious being in a band, but they just seem to have so many ideas when putting stuff together. I read recently that they a lot of people in the band write and contribute to it, so you can understand where they have quite a lot of influences from all the different people.
is it you want me to be thinking of? I'll put on a movie, I'll play something groovy as a matter of service. And I'll chuckle when you smile as a matter of love. And you know it's not my style to be giving up now. This pain in my side, I had enough. This time I'll go for Instant Street. This life's a soulless excuse for all abuse and caress. The fly-speck windows and the stinking lobbies, they'll remain all the same, all the same.
From the Ideal Crash, a 1999 album, that was Deus with Instant Street, the around the world choice of my guest mixer this week, Joe Rolls. Now, I mentioned, Joe, before, the pleasure of rediscovering an album, your choice of Everclear, which is an album I'd forgotten I even owned at any point. And you've managed that twice in this list. Although this album, as soon as I read it, I thought, oh, you know what? I haven't listened to them in ages. So this is Battles, and I certainly owned this album Mirrored. I certainly remember buying it back in the day. I also bought the EP that came before. It was called C/B, which was also very, very good. And I haven't had a chance yet, but they've got on my list of things to slap on. I interviewed Rachel Wood for the wedding present last night, and she reminded me her Something Blue choice was Nick Drake. So I reminded me I hadn't listened to any Nick Drake for ages. So I spent the remainder of the evening listening to Nick Drake. I may spend the remainder of this evening listening to Battles, which will be a very different experience. So the song you've gone for is Tonto. If you do remember them, it's probably more likely you remember the song Atlas, which is off the same album. I think that was probably the one that got the most airplay. But yeah, no, they're a great band. You've gone for this in Left of Centre, and they're sort of left of centre, but within a mainstream setting, if you know what I mean. They're a great band, full of intriguing ideas. So what led you particularly to choose this one?
This one, again, wouldn't necessarily. It's probably as sort of electronic as I probably get. I think they're mainly a duo with made up of a drummer.
Yeah, I think it's two of them.
Yeah, who's exceptional, and a guitarist / keyboardist. And I think I remember they would fall under the title of, remember Math Rock? Math Rock, yeah, where sort of full of really kind of irregular rhythms and patterns and odd signatures. Quite angular.
I owned quite a few. I've owned quite a few math rock albums in my time.
Do you? I mean, I don't know how the drummer does it. He managed to kind of keep so laser sharp and focused on many different patterns of the song. And what I sort of liked about them is they take the songs in so many different places. When I was in a band and we used to write our own stuff rather than do covers, we sort of do the verse, we do the chorus, and then we'd always go, well, it needs to go somewhere else. That kind of, and then even if it then comes back for the chorus and then to the outro, we always found it hard to take it. But they take their songs all over the place in just one song. So I've always been, whilst it might not be my go-to music genre, it's certainly very, very impressive. And I think there used to be, I don't know if you remember the festival, All Tomorrow's Parties, it was called.
Oh, yeah.
It was quite a sort of a less commercial.
It was normally sort of curated by an individual, wasn't it?
Yeah, so I think I went 3 years in a row. And the first year was curated by Explosions in the Sky. Then there's the Breeders. And then Matt Groening, I think, did it in 2010.
That's an interesting mix.
Yeah, it was quite a strange collection of artists in that year. But 2008 was when Battles played, and that was a great lineup that year. They had Broken Social Scene, Dinosaur Jr., The National. And they were sort of part of that quite lo-fi type sort of stuff as well. And they played a couple of times in that festival. A really, really interesting, clever, creative couple of dudes, really.
That was Battles with Tonto from the 2007 album Mirrored, and I would recommend to anybody, including yourself, Joe, the EP. I think was from about a year or so before. I think it's called something like EP C/B EP or something a bit odd like that. But
Yeah,
that's definitely worth a listen as well. Right, now, your wild cards choice was the only one that I drew a complete blank. Never heard of this lot. Don't know anything about them. But to give you a bit of a clue, listeners, Joe's comment on it in his email was, "I love a banjo."
love a banjo. And this appears actually at the end of the song, but it kind of really signifies the way it can lift the song. A fast picking, clean banjo sound. It's great. I could listen to it all day.
I'm quite fond of a bit of country, the right sort of country, and a bit of banjo in country works very well. And have you ever seen Steve Martin, the comic actor? He's a fantastic banjo player.
Yes, yeah.
He's absolutely incredible. So the band are called Godless Wicked Creeps, which I do like as a band name. That's a great lot. So how did you come across them? Because this could have been your around the world choice, isn't it? Because they're Danish.
It could have been, yeah. They're Danish. That's right, yeah. And the banjo contribution into this wouldn't necessarily be a natural or the most natural sort of instrument here. But I used to be into psychobilly music when I was in my 16, 17, 18s, early teens. That kind of cross between punk and rockabilly. And I caught the tail end of its heyday, I suppose, which, I mean, it started around 82. Probably heyday went to about 84. It was pretty short lived.
Yeah.
And the kind of main UK players would have been bands like King Kurt and the Guana Bats and the Long Tall Texans and the Meteors. I don't know if you remember that band called the Highliners who did Henry the Wasp.
I don't remember that. I definitely on my collection of, like a lot of people, and you possibly did as well, I used to record sessions off John Peel. And there's a load of C90s with normally about 3 sessions on each side. I definitely had at least one on a bat session. Yeah,
I remember listening to them at night, actually, and that's really one of the things that kind of got me into it, because I think they did a cover of, might have done a cover of Rock This Town, actually, by Stray Cats. I think King Kurt got onto Top of the Pops in 1983. Their single Destination Zululand crept in at number 36.
If I can dig out a video to that Top of the Pops appearance, Joe, I'll stick it on the website.
Oh, well, do you know what I was about to say? I watched that last week, and it's so funny watching people dance to it, not knowing what on earth is going on. They've all got their sort of best shirt and tie on, and their jumper tucked into their pinked trousers. But the reason why I chose this particular one, because as I say, it wouldn't be the main one you'd reach for, is because it's an instrumental. So I thought I'd change things up a bit and put something a bit different in. The reason why I know this band is, again, probably looking on YouTube and seeing what's out there. And when I came across the name Godless Wicked Creeps, I thought I better check that out because it sounds quite interesting.
That was Godless Wicked Creeps with Instrumental Disease, a track from their 1995 album, Helcoholic, I think is how you say it. And that was the wildcard choice of Joe Rolls, my guest mixer this week. So, Joe, we've reached your finale, and you've gone for a song which obviously I'm very familiar with, although I didn't know this version of it. I didn't know about this album. One thing I can tell you is my late father would certainly have approved of this. He was a big Elvis fan, and I know he liked this song a great deal. So this is the King doing Burning Love, but it's an album that I think was done in 2015, and it's sort of reimaginings of Elvis with the Royal Philharmonic Orchestra. Is that right?
Yes, correct. Yeah, it's sort of. I mean, plenty of bands have sort of brought in orchestras and strings. That's to work alongside the sort of more contemporary sounds. But this one is, I don't know, it's kind of you can't help but have a quick knee tremble in the kitchen when you listen to it. And the idea for choosing this one, again, this is sort of influenced by my other daughter Sophie, who's 12. So there you go. I've evened it up. I'm not in trouble anymore. I've name checked both of them, and they love sort of musicals and been brought up on, as we were talking before, brought up on Disney films. And every now and again we'll have a bit of a kitchen disco where I'll put a song on of something, and then they'll put a song on, and in the end we end up with something from Under the Sea by Little Mermaid or whatever. We'll have a bit of they'll all the words, and I'll have a sing along to it. But we've also taken them to see musical theatre. So you see like Aladdin and Panto. And what I've noticed there is that at the end, either at the end of the first half or the end of the second half, is their biggest song. That's the one that, if it's played at the end of the first half, it makes people excited to go back and see the second half. It's played at the end of the second half, it means people leave with that song and go, what a show. And the reason why
you mentioned that, actually, because we watched a stage version of Frozen on Disney Plus the other day, and having now seen the film a few times, I suddenly thought, oh, they haven't done Let It Go where it normally goes in the film. And then I thought, I wonder if that's because they're going to finish the first half with it. And that is exactly
really? Okay. Well,
in the musical version, yeah. So they leave that right till the end. So the big crescendo, and in the film it ends with the door slamming shut, but in the musical, it's the lights go out, and that's the end of Act 1.
Yeah, I just thought this one would be, that really big sound, and what a great song to end on. Nothing much really else to add, really.
My brain is flaming. I don't know which way
From the 2015 album If I Can Dream, Elvis with the Royal Philharmonic Orchestra. And that was, of course, Elvis himself with Burning Love. And I haven't listened to the rest of that album yet, but it'll go on the list because I'd really like to. There was an album my father owned called From Memphis to Vegas, I think. And one was sort of an album of country songs. It was a double album. One was country songs. The other record was him live in Vegas. And it was the proper, him with the leather jacket and, all the rest of it. It's absolutely brilliant. Every song ends with a blast from the horn section. You know what I mean? It fades out, and then da-da, at the end of every single song. There's like an 8-minute version of Suspicious Minds on there, which is absolutely fabulous. So, So, I was like I say, I really enjoyed that. My dad would have enjoyed it. And I'm glad you managed to get your younger daughter in as there as well. As a parent of several children, I know the importance of making sure.
Yeah, you got to do exactly the same for one as you do for the other.
Yeah. Okay. So I hope Sophie enjoyed that, and I hope Daisy enjoyed the Rilo Kiley song. Will the two of them listen to this, do you think?
Well, I will definitely provide them with the opportunity of listening to it. They might skip the song, some of them, but if I tell them they're mentioned, then I think that might it might be encouraging them to listen to it.
Well, I can tell you, of all of my children, obviously the younger two are excused because they're only 3, but of the 5 older ones, only one of them, as far as I'm aware, has ever listened to any of these. So hello to Anna, if you are listening, and thank you to some of them. So we reached the end, Joe. I hope you enjoyed putting all this together and coming on the show.
Yeah, thanks for the opportunity, Steve. I really enjoyed doing that. Actually, and took me back to a few moments in time, a few places, a few people.